Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to the next part of the show. A big thank you to Paul Glover for standing in. My name's Alex Goldschmidt. I've been a regular haunt here on the Motor Racing Endurance Championship, but it's time for episode number 5 of the Sim Racing GP podcast, powered by Motor Racing. And joining me very soon will be Cammy Sturch, but I'd like to welcome along Diego from Formula Student, who's going to be our guest for the next hour. Diego, very, very good to see you. How are things?
Hello, it's great to see you. Everything is great, so thank you for the invitation, for being in the podcast, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Diego, just give us a bit of background of, obviously, being with Formula Students and getting into sim racing. How did the journey begin with you?
Well, I guess for me, the journey of sim racing begins with the journey of real racing. So when I was a kid, like when I was 4 or 5 years old, I got hooked in racing and started following Formula One. I remember when I was 9 or 10, waking up like at 5 a.m. just to watch Formula One. And so when I grew up, I kind of knew two things. I wanted to do this in a professional capacity, and I also wanted to get involved in races and in the capacity that I could. So obviously, I started in sim racing with Gran Turismo, and then moved on to PC once I was able to afford that. And in terms of professionally, I started studying mechanical engineering, and so both journeys combined later on with Formula Student as I started developing the cars we make in real life, developing them for the sim. So yeah, and pretty much that's how it gets us. It gets us to today. And yeah, it's been a really cool journey, and it's just the beginning.
Well, we're going to get a bit more in depth into that, Diego, but of course, we had Sim Racing GP rivals with Intel, and we had the Mad Formula Student car on the GPK circuit in Suzuka. Myself and Paul Glover, I think we're going to be falling off the back of our chairs because they are a complete handful. But as you said, mechanical engineering, there are a lot of people that try and get into motorsport and don't have the budget, let's say, to go into IRL racing. I see a lot of karters who will... because that's what I've been doing, for those wondering why I haven't been around for the first half of the podcast. I'm currently in Belgium at the moment, just having done the B&L karting series for their final round of the season. But mechanical engineering is a great tool to have because there's always a requirement for engineers and technicians in the pit lane in IRL. But as you said, that correlation translates to the sim racing world. When we see with like Assetto Corsa Competizione, iRacing, R-Factor 2, even AC, and we'll get onto the modding a little bit later on in terms of mods, different cars that can be made in different tracks. But there is really a direct correlation to both, isn't there? The line, just like real life racing, has been completely blurred, irrecoverably, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely a very useful tool for real life racers. Like when you see real racers training in ACC or Assetto Corsa, like I remember yesterday it was Fernando Alonso, I believe, who posted a photo of him training in Assetto Corsa, and that just shows how much everything has evolved. Like even compared to 10 years ago, like these days, anybody can get Assetto Corsa or ACC, and when you see professionals using it as a proper tool to train and to develop their skills, it shows that the people who are good even in the sim can be really good in real life. And we've seen some people go from the sim and get the opportunities and get the budgets to go racing. I guess Jimmy Broadbent is obviously the prime example of that, but there's been many more, and with many projects like the McLaren Challenge and other tournaments that there have been. So as an engineer, I see it, and I see it as a very useful tool that can help you explore new areas of setup, find new ways of getting better, and yeah, it's a really, really exciting place to be.
Yeah, you mentioned about Jimmy, of course. For those that didn't really catch his antics on YouTube, both he, Steve Alvarez Baran, and Nisha Sharadin with the Bilstein Team Black Falcon BMW 330 got their first ever podium at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Despite trials and tribulations with damage, Misha having a big old off. And I think one of the good things about when you see like Steve, Jimmy, and Misha, being given an opportunity. And that's all it takes. It takes one moment where you can be in the right place at the right time. And I would imagine that that's been the case for you, Diego. Especially like going onto the Formula Student Program, which every year has a major competition. You've got universities from all across the globe. And it's a sign of community, very much the case of what we have in sim racing. What has been your best highlights of being involved with Formula Students so far?
Wow, there's been a lot. I mean, this is my 5th year. I'm beginning in university, and it's my 5th year in the team, in Math Formula team, which is the one where I'm working. And I have so many good memories and so many highlights of, with friends, sharing moments with other teams. It's very much a competition where everyone is friends with each other. You're competing with each other, but there's a really good feeling. But I guess the highlight is when I got to drive the car in Austria in 2021. That was very special. It was a big honor, a big task not to crash the car, because it's the work of all your team, everyone it's even work you've done yourself. And at the end of the day, we're students. We are doing this for passion, for to learn, to progress, and to other things. But we do it because we love what we're doing. So I guess the highlight was driving the car, but there are so many more with good friends, and you form a family at the end of the day, which is really, really beautiful.
Yeah, very good evening, Cami. Good to have you with us for the SGP podcast episode number 5, powered by Moser Racing. How are you doing, by the way?
Good to see you again, Alex, and great to meet you too, Diego. Yeah, very well. I had to just take a quick break because I've been commentating from the green flag, from qualifying of the Moser 6-hour endurance race here at Monza. So just had to have a moment off the computer, but doing very well. Great to see you again.
Yeah, Cami, have you got any questions for Diego? Because we talked about his journey into sim racing, and obviously with Formula Student. We need to get onto mods, don't we? We need to get on cool stuff in sim racing. But I mean, Cami, have you got any questions first of all for Diego?
I mean, obviously I missed the first bit of the interview of the podcast, but I'd love to hear more about the Formula Student, because I know Formula Student, it's a worldwide event, isn't it, where universities compete against each other, and I'm very much on the outside of that. I went to university back in the days where, did you know when I went to university the iPhone hadn't come out? That's how long it came out whilst I was at university. So just to put that, I'm not that old. But
you just had to put it out there, didn't you?
Yeah.
I literally, in my
not
first
that long
year,
ago.
I had a PDA rather than an iPhone. But if I was doing university now, I'd certainly look at a motorsport one where I could do engineering, and I'd just love to hear a bit more about that competition that's between universities and the different positions that maybe if we can open up a bit where people watching, they could possibly be inspired as to the various positions and things that they can learn. Because from the outside, I just think, okay, I want to change wheels on a race car? But I'm sure there's much more to Formula Student than becoming a mechanic, for example.
Absolutely. The key about Formula Student is that it's a competition for engineers, and that's kind of the goal. And when you look at how the events are formatted, it's all about how the people who design the car, how they do it, what sort of ideas they have, how they make them happen. And so at the end of the day, the easiest way to explain it, I guess, there are hundreds of competition. Well, hundreds, maybe that's a bit too much. There are hundreds of teams all around the world who are competing in a dozen competition all across Europe. There are also in North America, in Australia, Japan. And so each team goes to the ones which are closest to them. You don't go to all of them. It's not like Formula One or another series where you go to all races. You go to the ones that fit your calendar. And in each competition, each university builds its own car from scratch. So that means designing all the parts, designing all and simulating everything to make sure the parts will hold up, finding sponsors to make sure you can get the material and the resources to make it happen, and then you have to build it, and then you have to race it. So it's very much a competition for engineers. And even in the events themselves, you have dynamic events in which the car is racing, but also you have static events in which you have to show your designs and the way you organize your team, and you have to show all of this to professional engineers who are working in the biggest automotive brands there are. So like Dallara, VW, Porsche, Formula One teams. They are your judges, and so it's a very good way for us to learn and to grow as engineers, because at the end of the day, the goal of the competition is for you to become a better engineer. So when you sit uni, you have this background, you have this experience, and yeah, it's a beautiful competition. From the outside, you will see some incredible cars. Some of them are beating world records, like Zurich's car. It just beat a few days ago the not to 100 kilometers an hour world record. It did it in less than a second. And so you have these little monsters, which are developed by engineers, and the ingenuity and the concepts behind them are just really, really incredible.
Because one of the static events and the dynamic events, you have there's like a slalom event, isn't there? And then there's an acceleration event. And I think is that also a test of accelerating and how quickly you can bring the car to a stop as well? Because some of these Formula Student cars, if people viewing haven't seen them, they're like tiny little go-karts with a monocoque and huge wings that you would see on like hill climb rally cars, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are 4 events in a competition, dynamic events. You have a skid pad, which is a figure of 8, shall we say, in which you test the cornering capabilities of your car. You have acceleration, in which you see how fast it goes. Autocross, which I guess it would be a time trial. It's the closest thing you can compare it to, in which you have to do a lap as quickly as possible. And then endurance, which is a bit longer, around half an hour, which for these handmade cars, it can be quite tricky to make. And so you have these 4 competitions in which you test the car in different areas, and the best team, the team that manages to score the most points, is the one bringing the trophies home. But yeah, every team brings a new concept, brings new ideas to the mix, which is at the end of the day what everything is about.
So for people watching, if you want to get involved in Formula Student, if you're in the UK, because not every university does it, so if you're in the UK, Imperial College London, University of Bath, University of Birmingham, University of Glasgow, University of Sheffield, they have Formula Student teams. If you're in Germany, you'd want to look at the University of Stuttgart. I think they are the most successful Formula Student team in the world, with 4 Class 1 wins. Or you can go to TU Munich. If you're in USA, there's Georgia Tech, CSU Pomona, Rochester IT, and University Tech Arlington. Italy has Unimore, and I think that's Australia with Monash University. There's so many. Oh, and Sweden has Chalmers UT. So just to give people viewing an idea of, well, is there a university near me? But like, how long do you spend? Is it a yearly event, or can you spend more than a year working on a Formula Student car?
So, well, I actually wanted to add that most universities with an engineering degree have a Formula Student team in some capacity. In Spain, I know there are at least 20 or 30 universities with a program. Some of them are very strong. Some others have just begun building their cars. And I know in the UK there are also 30 plus teams with a car. So most likely, if you have a university with an engineering degree, it's most likely there's a Formula Student project in some capacity, which is really cool. And the more teams, the better. And to follow up your question, it does take a lot of time. So you have to build a car every year. That's one of the rules the competition puts. So you're forced to design a brand new concept every season. And so you spend the entire year building that car. Right now we are in Math Formula team. We are building next year's car already. So we have started with the design phase already, and so it's very much a year-long project. And there's new members coming in, old members leaving the team. So that transition is also very important. How you are able to teach new members your knowledge, everything you've learned over the past 3, 4, 5 years, whatever you've been in the team. So at the end of the day, it's a year-long project. Even though the competitions are in summer, all the work done to get the car ready has been done prior to that.
I know patron of Formula Student is, of course, Ross Brown, but there are some really notable judges as well, aren't they? There are a lot of people from high up in motorsport, especially from Formula One. So checking my notes, Andrew Deakin from Renault and William Tuitt from Sauber F1. And sometimes you get drivers like Jenson Button who drop in to check out what's happening because they, like Fernando Alonso, they have a great interest in the next generation of motorsport, which ties in nicely to sim racing because Fernando Alonso and Jenson Button were two of the most active drivers during lockdown, weren't they?
Yeah, they were racing a lot during the lockdown. They were in these. What was the tournament called? That one from the race.
The race All Stars
Yeah.
with Jack Nicholls and Jolyon Palmer on commentary. I
The-
still
the-
remember they still got Sebastian Vettel, Emerson Fittipaldi. I think even Mario Andretti got involved as well, which was crazy because it was like the only form of entertainment that we all had. A really interesting question I've just thought of actually, Diego. With regards to when you say that there is a 12-month period where you're constantly building a new car, is there a carryover of parts that you are able to use, or is there a lot of, I wouldn't say the word cannibalization, I would say that a transfer of parts that will be specific to the backbone, the foundation of the car, like say the chassis, any electronic control units, or any system software that might be usable as per the regulations of Formula Student?
So the main one you have to change is the chassis. So everything else you can kind of carry it over. So like you will have the engine, you can carry over aerodynamic parts, even suspension components, but the chassis you have to build a new one every year, and not only build a new one but build it differently. So whether that is new geometry, new materials being used, you have to show to the judges that you are not just taking what someone else did last year and bringing it over to this year, because at the end of the day, what the judges want you to do is to build something and to learn from it. Having said that, there's a lot of carryover, especially when you have a good basis. So all the top teams, what they are doing is optimizing previous concepts, improving the ways they are building things, exploring new areas to get performance. So once you get to one point, you will definitely be optimizing everything, but even then you still have to bring something new every year and come up with new concepts and ideas. So that's part of the fun of this, of being involved in Formula Student.
Is there sometimes a fight between you, between who gets to be the driver? Because I can imagine several of you want to be the driver.
Yeah, and as part of the competition, the drivers have to be members of the team. So they have to be uni students who are part of the team. You cannot go and hire the professional driver from out there. It has to be someone from the team. In fact, there are 4 drivers per team because they want to see that the car can be driven by multiple drivers, that it's easy to drive. And I mean, at the end of the day, you end up taking the 4 fastest people there is on your team, because that's what's gonna bring you the most points. So even though there's a fight and there's obviously that competitiveness, you want the best 4 people in your team to be in the car and bringing you the best results.
I think that's quite. Yeah, sorry, Cammy.
Sorry, I was going to say it's held at Silverstone a lot, but I wonder if you'd be excited to see it held elsewhere.
So that's FS UK. It's held in Silverstone. For example, FS Austria is held at the Red Bull Ring. FS Germany is held at Hockenheim. FS Spain is held in Montmeló. So you are really going to these amazing Grade 1 circuits, and you sometimes get to work on the paddocks and on the garages where a month ago F1 was racing or MotoGP was racing, and that's a really, really surreal feeling just to be in the paddock, working in your car, and yeah, thinking that you are in a professional environment already and racing in these tracks you've been watching on TV all the time. So that's also the thing about Formula Student. There are 10, 15 competitions every year, and your team has to classify to as many as possible, and then you will get to go to as many as you can. Usually a team will go to 4 competitions. That's usually the norm. Some teams go to less. Very few teams go to more. So yeah, it's usually you go to 3-4 places per year, and yeah, you get to go to some really, really nice places.
Yeah, I think, well, you know what, that's been a really, really cool insight on Formula Student. I mean, some of the people that I know within the industry, Alexandra Legui and Andrew Mather, have been part of presenting teams at Silverstone for FS UK. But let's get on to some proper sim racing bits and pieces, shall we, Diego? Let's get on to modding. The modding side of sim racing, you know, especially with the Assetto Corsa, is quite prevalent. You know, as I was mentioning with SGP rivals with Intel, we had the Formula Student cars at the GPK version of Suzuka. What do you enjoy about modding? It sort of gives you, as you said earlier on when we started this about 20 odd minutes ago, that you can bring your mechanical engineering know-how and apply it in a virtual sense to create all these different cars. You know, what attracts it to you? Is it like the intricacies of attention to detail and making it as real to life as possible?
For me, the way I started with sim racing, with modding, was back in the pandemic. So at that point, I had been in the team for a year now. And when everyone went into lockdown, it was clear that we wouldn't be able to race. And so I was quite disappointed that I couldn't get to see the first car I was working on in real life, driving and seeing it in person. And so, being in lockdown, not being able to do anything else, I started wondering, what if I can bring that car onto a simulator? Obviously, Assetto Corsa was the one I was most familiar with, and it is the most popular one when it comes to adding content. And so I started researching, working on it, and it was very much a process of learning by myself how to do it, making a lot of mistakes in the way, asking a lot of questions to a lot of people in forums and in chats, to people who really know what they're talking about, like the people from RSS, from IER, from the forums at Kunos and Race Department. So it was very much learning how to do things and how to get a car onto Assetto Corsa. And so it was really exciting just to be able to mix that also with the information I know from the real project and having access to all the real life data to make it very accurate. And so that's how the 2020 car came about and how it was entered into the sim and shared with the community. And so the next 2-3 cars, I really enjoyed the process of making a car into Assetto Corsa. And I saw a lot of potential on it, on gathering data and helping the team with training drivers, recreating tracks so drivers can get to learn them before getting to the real life circuits. And so I saw a lot of potential there, and I started working on the next car. And by now I have already built 4 cars in the last 4 years. And so each year I've been learning new things, how to make them better. I've been able to learn how to extract data from the real life project better. And yeah, it's just that ability to be able to have it on the sim, to test new things, and also to share with everybody. Like, I know a lot of people who didn't know what Formula Student was until they drove the car on Assetto Corsa, which is really exciting. And I even know some team members who entered a few years ago who knew the team thanks to Zero Corsa. Like the first time they had any contact with Formula Student and Matt Formula team was the car in race department, and then they started searching. They saw there was a team in real life, and then they joined. So it's really beautiful to see also that side of modding. Not sure if you can hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I
Okay,
can.
perfect.
I can
Yeah,
hear
I
you.
thought that was my internet dropping out.
Okay. Yeah. Everything went a bit quiet for a moment, so I didn't know if it was my end or your end.
Great. Oh, it's been me during the race having internet drop out, but that might have been all of us. I know. I know the feed that we get through Discord for the race that runs in the background of our podcast is very pixely and very delayed compared to the Twitch feed. So
Yeah.
it might even be something on Caden Broadcasting side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really cool to understand from the modding perspective there, Diego, that I mean, we've had a couple of mentions in the chat saying, well, one of the, I think it was actually Stefan, who's one of our team behind the scenes here, says that, yeah, my friend does a lot of tracks and he says it's tedious because it takes quite a long time, but devil's in the detail, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like it's all about how much you want to spend on it and make it as accurate as you know. So, I mean, you could make a very simple car or a very simple track in a matter of days or a matter of weeks. But if you want something realistic and fun to drive and enjoyable, it takes a lot more. And also because you will, even when you release it, someone will point out something that you've overlooked. That has happened a lot on my end. I've seen a lot of people mentioning things that I had overlooked completely and helping me to improve. So, and I'm sure it happens with everybody who's making content for EC. So, yeah, it's all about how much you want to spend on it, and if you have the desire and the and you want to get something really, really exciting and something that you can be really proud of, and yeah, it's gonna take a long time.
Yeah, Kemi, I don't know if you've got any questions about modding for Diego at all.
Oh well, I suppose given you do modding and you do Formula Student, I mean, which path do you see most realistically, or would you want a professional career in? Because it could even open up into a situation where video game developers who produce sim racing simulators would say you could come on board as a programmer to develop our cars in our game, and then that would mean a career in video games, which is ironic because I left a career in video games to come into motorsport. So which, if you were offered a position in a sim racing video game studio, or let's say like a European GT team, but which would you take?
Well, the itch to go racing in real life, it's too strong for me. So I would have to take at first the racing in real life, where there is Formula One, Le Mans, GT racing. I'm already looking for jobs on that section, on that industry. But I really enjoy working on content for racing video games. So even though I am thinking on other paths right now for like my short-term future, in the long term, I'm very much open to maybe go into a racing video game or whatever comes up. So yeah, but at the moment, I really want to make it into real life racing. It's been a dream, so it's kind of that sort of box I want to take before going elsewhere.
Maybe you could, yeah, the video game stuff can always be on the side as a hobby and make a little extra money on the side with special mods for people. And sometimes, yeah, people may want bespoke mods made for them for their particular car. If somebody designs a car and wants it in a simulator, then they could be turning to you to make that a reality. And I don't know if you does the modding include 3D modeling as well? Do you have to 3D model the cars to put the air?
Yeah, so
Like 3D Max and
so at the moment I've been like when the process to make one of the Formula Student cars, for example, you first start 3D modeling the car. So in my case, it's basing the CAD model of the real life car. So the model that we use to design all the parts. So based on that, simplified a lot, optimized a lot to be able to use it on a simulator. A lot of 3D modeling to redesign a lot of parts because they are not well optimized from CAD. So that takes a long time. Also, the work involved to be able to make skins, to have proper textures on the car. So there's a lot of 3D modeling as well. And then there's a lot of studying vehicle dynamics and studying how your car works and how AC models real things, how AC models engines, how it models tires, and from the data you have, trying to find the information that you have to fit the simulator to have something accurate and realistic. Because, for example, right now in the team, I'm my work this year is developing the real the AC version of the car, and then doing testing with the car, comparing the telemetry with real life telemetry, and try to have it as a validated tool for driver training and even setup optimization. So it's very, very precise, the work that is going on, a lot of studying of many things. So yeah, it's a lot of work. Also on the 3D modeling aspect, using 3ds Max, although you could use Blender if you have that one, and also on the physics side.
yeah, I will say for people out there, Blender is like it's the free option. So if you're new to 3D modeling and you want to get into it, Blender is free to download, whereas 3ds Max, Maya, some of the others, they are quite expensive and probably have subscription models. And Diego, if a team manager is watching at the moment, how could they contact you? Like, what's your email? How could they get in touch with you?
Well, I guess they can contact me through a lot of ways. If you're a team manager, I think you can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I can give my email if anyone is listening. Just leave a message, and I'll provide it. No, but you can find me in a few ways, and you could also find me through the SGP, through the Formula Student community, because I'm managing that. I guess a bit of an ad there about our community. But yeah, I guess if you want to contact me, I can, yeah. Just
Always got to take advantage of these times to get your website name out there or something like that.
Exactly. So
you never know when the right person's watching.
Exactly. So if you need to contact me, I think my name will pop up on LinkedIn quite quickly. If not, I'll provide on the chat maybe the link for that, so you can have it there.
That's it. And if you need any help, just ask Alex, because
Yeah.
he's a big player. He is a big player in motorsport. I met him at W Series.
Apparently.
Hey, you've commentated on Formula E. You're a big fish.
Yeah.
And it's, well, a small fish in a big pond, which is getting bigger and bigger by the month. Diego, let's go on to the Formula Student community. How many members are there at the moment? And it is pretty much like a full-time job running a community. So like getting everyone involved and saying, right, we're going to be doing this. Who's up for it? There's a lot of organisation when it comes to running a community, isn't there?
Yeah. So the SGP community came back when SGP was still in beta. The Steve, when he was working in SGP, he contacted me and he was like, and he wanted us to incorporate the car into the platform, the Formula Student car into the platform, and so that was added in. He created a community where we could start getting people involved from the team, from other teams, and it grew pretty quickly. And so that's when they each came in to start hosting races and creating content. That's when I met Hoop, who is the person who's making the GPK tracks. And so that combination of the Formula Student car and the GPK circuits, which for those who don't know, every single Formula One track in the 2023 calendar has been downscaled to karting size, and we race on it every single weekend when there is Formula One. So in the Formula Student community, which there are 1,500 members, I believe last time I checked, so every single weekend when there is Formula One, we host races in AC with the Mad Formula cars and the track in question. So yeah, it's very much a full-time job, but at the same time, hosting this community is very much something I do as a hobby, as to have fun, to be able to race on the weekends, to relax a little bit. So we definitely have an easygoing mentality in the community. We try to have fun above everything else. So if you want, some casual racing, I mean, casual but fair. We are very strict with penalties when we see dirty driving. So if you want casual fair racing with Formula Student cars, yeah, definitely join us, join the community, because we have some really cool races going on, and there's some really cool events taking place.
Draconian penalties, I like it. You've got, even though yes, it's fun, there still has to be a level whereby you've got to say, look, guys, we know we're here to have fun, but don't play dirty. Just have fun, race hard, race fair, and then do you always get the odd occasional person that sort of like goes, oh, why me? Why am I always the one getting punished? Well, you're always breaking the rules. Is there someone like that in the community as an example, or is it just everyone just...
No, I mean, the people who race with us regularly, they are very fair, and when they have an incident, they always admit their fault. They sometimes, something really cool about our community is that we encourage people to let other drivers by if they've, for example, punted them off. So like if there's an incident and someone spins another person off, we encourage a swap of positions and that sort of attitude, and it's really cool to see. Obviously, from time to time, someone joins and does things a little bit naughty, but it's very odd, very rare, and for the most part, everybody understands that the best way to have fun in races is when you respect who you are racing with, and you leave a space, you have a fun battle, and that's when you have the most fun, when you're respecting your rivals and you're having a fair race.
What's the most chaotic race that's transpired in the Formula Student SGP so far? I bet there's been a few.
Yeah, there are a lot, because the cars and the tracks just lead up to chaotic races. Well, the craziest ones are usually in Monaco, because it's a downscaled version of real life Monaco. Ooh, there's a crash in the race.
Oh dear, breaking racing, we got it all wrong.
So
at that point.
yeah, so I remember, I think it was last year in Monaco, the top two made it through turn one, everybody else was stuck in a pileup. So you get those odd races from time to time, but even then, when that happens, you look at the replay and it's just a small collision which leads to a massive crash. But yeah, there are always chaotic races. They are 25-30 minutes long, so not that long, but there's a lot of action going on, because you are constantly overtaking, just having people to battle, and yeah, it's always really fun races what you get.
That sounds pretty interesting. Yeah. So where can So you said there's 1,500 members and growing. Do you find that there's a bit of an uptake with the new people that join and Formula Student in terms of doing a mechanical engineering degree, looking to get into motorsport? I think you probably agree with me on this, Cammy, that mechanical engineering is a skill that is very much overlooked within motorsport. The driver is the person that is the person that's stuck in front of the camera behind the wheel, but it's the people behind the scenes that really put in the hard graft. Like say if there's been a Fanatec GT World Challenge race and someone's had a big off and the car's a mess, and it's the day before qualifying, you've got to get that together. It is one of those qualifications that is very, very paramount. I think not just to current day motorsport, but for the future of motorsport in general, especially with alternative technologies being used as propulsion. We've got the Hydrogen Le Mans prototype car that's being used as a course car. We've got Formula E, which is now in its third generation with 480 brake horsepower from the back end, with regenerative braking at the front, no brake system on the back axle. It's all fly-by-wire. It is really, I think, an area that a lot of people now, as you said, you've got the allure of real racing, but the mechanical engineering is really a good point to get yourself in with these top teams and people who have gone on to bigger things. You look at what Adrian Newey's achieved in his career as the man that can find his way around any loophole in Formula One. That's definitive, considering the fact that Red Bull picked up their 6th Constructors' World title last weekend at Suzuka. It is really understated, but from your perspective, what's the challenge like being someone that is learning about mechanical engineering? No 2 days are the same, I bet.
No, it's the career itself. Any engineering degree, I think it's very tough, and anybody who's studying engineering in the chat will relate to this. But definitely, there are a lot of subjects which will teach you new things that you had no idea about, which take you weeks to learn and to understand, and so and engineering is like that. It's all about very difficult problems that they put to you, and at the end of the day, what you're developing is a skill just to solve problems. An engineer is hired to solve problems and to find ways to fix things and to create things that will help in a company, or in the case of a team, to help them win. So not just mechanical engineering, because for example in our team, I'm studying mechanical engineering, but we have industrial engineers, we have people who's studying aerodynamics, people who's studying electrical engineering, physics, mathematics. There's a lot of people who are studying different careers, and the one thing I've learned over these years is that you need people from different backgrounds and skills to be able to make anything happen. Like if you hired only mechanical engineers, you wouldn't have a car working. I'm sure of that. And it's something that you learn when you see a project as complete as a Formula Student team, and something that that requires people from different backgrounds. Like in our team, we have people even doing journalism, and those are in charge of our social media, and without them we wouldn't get any sponsors, so we wouldn't be able to build a car. So it's fundamental to understand that you need people from different skills, backgrounds, and once you understand that, you will be able to work on many different projects and with many different people.
I just wanted to quickly ask, how's the balance between men and women? Do you find that there are more women coming into the mechanical engineering scene now?
Thankfully, yes. When I started the degree, I think the ratio was like 75-25 in university, and also on the team, we've seen a big increase in women joining the team and being involved. And it's great to see that there is more girls involved in STEM programs, and I'm sure there's more coming. And it's really good to see that every year that you enter university, you see the newcomers, the freshmen and freshwomen. There are more girls coming in, and we will definitely see a lot more female engineers coming up in a few years' time.
You said about people from different backgrounds, so it's great that there are more women coming in, but do you also find that people from maybe like ethnic minority backgrounds or religions where you just might traditionally they would not have seemed welcome in the motorsport sphere, so it seems like now you have a real mix of different people who can bring different mindsets, different sort of attitudes, different ways of looking at problems?
Yeah, so from my personal point of view, I do see some more minorities being represented. I do think there's more work to be done in that area, and again, there's still work to be done to bring more girls onto STEM degrees, but also minorities. So I guess it's just like with many other areas in life. Like you need to open up your industry to this new open this industry to these minorities, because you will find some incredibly talented people, and you will find some incredible talents that can make projects just improve dramatically, and you wouldn't have noticed them if you didn't have some sort of program to find this talent. And so I think it's very important to also open up in this area.
Yeah, I think motorsport will always be a bit of a boys' club, but as long as it is welcoming and open to all sorts rather than a closed-off club, no girls allowed sort of thing, then I think that's pretty wonderful, and I see more girls and women in sim racing as well. I know Alex has had the pleasure of commentating on some very fast women in the sim racing sphere as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to when there's attitudes or things that are not okay and that are not welcoming to these minorities, to notice it and to be able to highlight it, and and not just overlook it. I think that's something that helps a lot to integrate people coming in, so they feel comfortable and they enjoy working on what they're doing. Like the best way to get the maximum out of a person is for them to feel motivated about their job and what they're doing. So the only way you are going to do that is if you have an environment that welcomes them and integrates them.
It's funny you should say that. I was at Aston Martin's F1 headquarters for a Pride event, and you've echoed what a representative from one of the sponsors, and he said it makes sense for us to be welcoming and accepting of all LGBTQ people and anyone of different backgrounds, because not only is it the moral thing to do, the bit that made me laugh was he said it just makes more money. It makes sense from a commercial point of view, because if that person can just work and focus on the job without a worry about, oh no, what if people discover I'm gay or trans or anything, then they are going to work at their best and they're going to bring more to the team. So it made me laugh. He said, it just makes sense from a moral view and a business view. So it's quite funny. You were literally saying word for word what the chap at Aston Martin F1 had said.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just makes sense, as he said, or she said. I don't know.
It was a guy, but
but it just makes sense. Absolutely,
it does. And Alex, I first met him at W Series, the racing series for women, which has kind of been superseded now by the Formula Academy. But again, I came into motorsport as a bit of a newbie, coming straight out of the video game scene, and people like Alex were incredibly welcoming to me, because I'm not the typical person you'd see in a motorsport paddock, but Alex, among others, have been incredibly welcoming to me. Thank you, Alex. You're one of the first people I really got talking to at Brands Hatch, weren't you?
Well, we have to thank a very, very prominent person within the LGBTQ community, Charlie Martin. currently running in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Europe this season with the chief hooligan of Ossom, Ossom Security, Jason Keats, who I managed to meet up actually in person at Spa this year. But like you say, Cami, inclusivity is being a lot more widely accepted. That people are there to perform at the best of their abilities, irrespective of who they are. And I think it is at that, saying about the fact that Aston Martin, Cognizant, F1 were saying, yes, it's the moral thing, but it makes us more money. Because there are so many people that are so skilled out there, irrespective of who they are. There should be no sort of discriminatory right for a company to say, no, we're not going to give you that opportunity because of this or because of that. They can't, there's so many employment laws now whereby things have changed quite significantly. I mean, it just goes to show that the world we live in is constantly evolving. Diego, we haven't got long until we let you go, so we really would like to say big thank you for joining myself and Cami here on episode 5 of the Sim Racing GP podcast powered by Moser Racing. I have to ask you a question. I'm going to get back to the modding side of things. What is your favourite mod combination on Assetto Corsa?
Ooh, obviously, I can be a bit biased when I say, for example, Formula Student cars in a UBK track. But no, actually, my favorite combination, and I've been driving this a lot, is the RSS 70 car, like the one from the 1970s.
Yeah.
Driving it in Road America. That combination for me, I just love that because I drive a lot of 70s car, like the 60s and 70s cars where you're H pattern sliding all over the place. I love driving those and having to play with the throttle. And when it comes to tracks, there are a few mods which are just absolutely incredible. Like you have Road America, Road Atlanta. You have some circuits which are so well created, so well detailed that you are just driving there and you're just loving it. So I'm gonna say that combo, but there are so many cars and tracks so good in AC. I sometimes find myself just clicking the random button, and whatever car and track pops up, I'm racing that for a test.
Well, they do say that variety is the spice of life. Would you agree, Cami? Especially when it comes to mods on sim racing.
They do, but that doesn't stop me picking like the 1991 Formula One season. Every time I jump on something like Automobilista 2 or Assetto Corsa with the mods, it's where are the early 90s F1 cars? There they are, and that's what I go for. Sometimes I'll go for like a late 80s F1 car, but I've got a bit of a penchant for.
Yeah. There's something out classic cars.
When they had V12s and when I think F1 cars looked their best, like the Ferrari 640 or 641, I think that was the pinnacle. But again, that could just be a generational thing.
I'd have to agree with you there, actually, to be honest with you. The 640 and the 641, I mean, they were the first sort of F1 cars that actually had paddles for gear shifts as opposed to H pattern.
They just looked gorgeous, though, didn't they?
They did as well. They did as well. But yeah, I mean that's a pretty cool combo, though. RSS 70, Road America. That's cool. You know what? I mean, the thing is, when you ask people those kinds of questions, and then you get an answer like that, it just goes to show how varied sim racing is with the mods that you can pick and choose on Assetto Corsa, Automobilista 2. Diego, where can people find you on social media? Now's your time to shout as loud as you can here on the Sim Racing podcast.
So my name in social media, it's quite an odd one. It's Ofitus21, so OFU. OFITUS. I know how to spell 21. It's a nickname I have from my grandparent, and I love it. So you can find me in Instagram, in Twitter, I guess as well. But the way I want, exactly, someone wrote it on chat. That's perfect. But the way I want you to find me is through SGP. Join the Formula Student community, and then you will find me there as well. So definitely join that community. And yeah, I mean, we are a very welcoming community as well. So and I love to chat with people there about any topic. So,
I'd
so
love to
yeah,
try
you
this.
can find me there as well.
Yep. So you know what I mean, Diego. It's really been great having you along for tonight's episode. It really has been a pleasure. You know, final thoughts of your take on communities within sim racing. You know, obviously running your own. You know, are there times when you sort of go, oh well, you know, you join another community on sim racing GP, and you find something out that you've never found out before? Is there sometimes where not the urge, but the sort of like saying, well, hang on a second, the community have been asking me to make some changes. That's not a bad idea. Do you find that sometimes if you join another community that there are some ideas that you could, I would not say cut, copy and paste, but in terms of sort of like modify it to make it bespoke for the Formula student community here on SGP?
Yeah, I remember that was a big thing when I was trying to find ways to encourage people to join on events and like maybe do some sort of ranking, so people with more experience and faster people were able to go in one split and then another split for rookie drivers. So back then and even and now, I did join communities. I did speak with a lot of people. I remember Dan Terry. He was very helpful with with ideas. And yeah, I mean, you sometimes see an event or a way or the way some communities do things or promote their events, or you know, the way they do things. And yeah, you always take some ideas, you bring them on board. I wouldn't say copy, obviously, because you're not copy pasting that event, but yeah, maybe the track they've used or the format of the race, the weather even. So yeah, you would definitely take some ideas, and even from communities outside SGP, which are even not related to sim racing. You see the way they are managing some things, and yeah, you gotta keep an open mind when it comes to improving and to find ways to make things better.
Diego, thank you so much for your time and joining myself and Cami for episode 5 of the Sim Racing GP podcast. Powered by Moser Racing. Have a great year developing the new Formula Student car. Keep up the good work with the community here on SGP.
Yeah, thank you to you for hosting me. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, I'll definitely keep watching the race because it looks really fun. So yeah, a pleasure to be here, and yeah, wish you the best, guys.
Okay, thank you very much, Diego. Well, folks, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, but then when we come back, myself and Cami will be with you all the way through to the checkered flag of the 5th round of the Moser Racing Endurance Championship, powered by Sim Racing GP at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. Back in a few moments.